It is, I think, the 16th Wednesday of the 2023 year that we decided to start counting. It is 7 a.m. here on the Pacific Coast, 10 a.m. on the East Coast, and we're here with Bree, with Amy, with Scoob, and with Robin on screen. Hey, y'all. And today we are jumping into something a little bit new, like definitely deeper. I'm excited to see where this goes because a topic is only is it's just words until you have people jump on screen and start chatting about it. You can only sort of guide it so much. And today I liked exactly where Bree's head is at with the idea of series and what's different with the series and why would it be important. And I know she's been thinking an awful lot about it, getting ready for this morning. So I'll toss the ball your way to introduce today, Bree. Go for it.
I caught it this time, even though you threw it in the wrong direction. I still caught it. There you go. Thank you. It's a directional thing. Usually you throw it towards a person. Yeah, I'm excited for this because I really like the fact that we can explore a topic or get into something a little bit deeper if we talk about creating a series. So, what is a series? It can be a limited series where maybe you want to just do a short like a podcast, but only have 6 to 10 episodes, and that's it. Like you're going to just do this limited series, and that's all you're going to do, and that's what you're going to create. Or you can do it within your podcast and make it about a topic or with a guest that you feel is something that you want to dive deeper into. Has anyone ever is there some kind of a topic that you don't cover generally, but you really would love to maybe just do a short exploration of that and give it its own thing? Does anybody have anything like that they've wanted to do?
Sort of. Not necessarily, not specifically something, but I've been thinking about sort of categorizing. But then I don't want people to get bored and be like, yeah, I don't really care about this. I don't want to listen for, 6 weeks or whatever. So I'm just mixing it up as I talk to people. But I thought sometimes, should I be more intentional about that? And so maybe.
No, I find breaking the pattern with something a little bit different kind of gets people paying attention to you a little bit more. Like, hey, this is different. Why is this different? I want to listen and see what's happening. Personally, my podcast is for brand new entrepreneurs, but I do a 3-part series of experienced entrepreneurs every once in a while, just to kind of break the monotony of having the same type of thing over and over again. And having that different perspective of finding other people's origin stories that have already taken the adventure and just kind of getting their insights. So, breaking that different kind of thing kind of makes people pay a little more attention to you.
Yeah, for sure. Robin, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what do I have that would be helpful? As you know, I tend to talk to people because my mind is full of things, and I wonder if I were to focus on books for a week, for 6 weeks, if I were to focus on food for 6 weeks, if I were to focus on lifestyle for 6 weeks, how might that land?
I think it's a great idea. I think that all of you guys have great ways of thinking about it. I love that Amy wants to categorize things, and I love that Scoob likes to mix in a little, like, here's all the people that are, undiscovered and they're trying to get started as an entrepreneur. And then here are the really experienced ones as a balance. And then, yeah, I love diving into a real specific topic, like you were saying, Robin, for a few episodes, however long you want it to be. Tamara, did you have anything that you wanted to that you could focus on that you wanted to do? We're talking about creating a series in a podcast.
Yes, and so many things about the machines, what type of tools or things like that, paper, vinyl that you can use, and I can get. And good morning, and sorry for not having my camera on. I'm driving.
You're fine. I like that too. I like that idea too, because you could focus on like the toolbox sort of thing with like, this is the episodes that will help you build out like the materials and things that you need and how different things work in different ways. I think they're all great ideas, and they're all great examples of what a limited series sort of podcast set could be. And I think it's a really great way to take that deeper dive. And I know that there are many, many listeners, from what has been talked about at events to what we're seeing trend in different ways, that a limited series works very, very well. They know that it is encapsulated, but there are some things that you're going to want to do to let them know that this is it. And the other thing I wanted to point out is you don't have to do them all in a row, right? So if you have a weekly podcast, you could do one per month, or you could put a couple in that time frame and then and then mix it in with other things. That's kind of like what Scoob is doing.
Oh.
You don't have to do it all in a row, but also understand your audience. If they're investing in that, they're waiting for it, right? They want more of that. So it's like you have to decide how you want it. There's no set amount to do. Like Robin, you were saying 6 is a great number. You could do it as a 3-part series. You could do it as a 6-part. You could do it as a 10-part. You could make a whole season out of it. It is completely up to you. Whatever you feel you have the most material for, I think is where you can, if you can look at it in an outline of how am I going to separate this information out, and then put it together in a series, and then how many episodes will that make? I think you have to look at what the topic is, or what you want to do with it. Maybe it's a guest that you had on and you guys talked for 4 hours and you're like, oh, well, that's not going to work as one podcast, right? Mm-hmm. How do I break that? Like, I could break that up into different segments, and so make it, a 3-part series or a 4-part series for people to digest it in. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be exact, but like how to digest it in portions to get the most out of it. So that leads me into what I want to talk about, was like the overall view of how you would create that, and what are some of the things that you're going to need to make it a cohesive series, limited series. So after you have a topic idea, which sounds like you guys already have topic ideas, which is fantastic, you're going to want to look at how you want to break it up. You're going to need an introduction. You want to let the audience know that this is what you're doing, right? You're going to outline it to them so they know what to expect, because an audience likes to know what to expect. Over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be talking about this. Here's the topic. This is why I feel it's important. Give them the introduction to what it is you're going to be doing, and make it very clear. The other thing is, you're going to want to give a little background on it. Like, show why it is that you want to do this. Like, let them know, tell them about it. This is a passion. This is something I've really wanted to do. This is important to me because of these reasons. Let them in at the beginning on that first episode a little bit about what you're doing and why it's so important to you. And then get into that first point that you want to make. I would suggest, if you have 6 things that you want to talk about in this series, but you're only going to do 4 episodes on it, that your first episode only has 1 topic in it, and your last episode has only 1 topic in it, and then you spread them out in the middle. And the reason I say this is because you want time for that introduction before you hop into it. And at the end, you're going to want to have time to finish that conclusion, that rounding out, that nice little nugget at the end where you wrap everything in a bow, and then you can recap all of the things that they've listened to. So it's really important to, as you space them out, that you have that beginning with a full introduction, and then a topic, and then the last portion, the conclusion, that you're wrapping things up in a nice bow. And make sure also that you have them well labeled, because people want to be able to find them. So make sure you label your episode. I don't say you have to necessarily always number your episodes. I see some people do number their episodes. Some people don't number their episodes. I don't number I started to, but I don't anymore. Because I don't know what order people are listening to things, and I just want them to listen organically as whatever way they want to. And so I don't number things.
That's a good thought. That's because it's really like an internal note. I feel like as much as anything, it's an internal note to make it easier to sort in our own heads as creators, maybe. But that's a good point. Like I put it on, but I can also see what you're saying there about not, because it does make it seem like you might have to go back and catch up. And I personally hate that feeling. So in one statement, you've immediately convinced me to stop doing that. Nicely done.
Thanks. Well, it's really a choice, and there's no right or wrong to it. It's just what makes sense for you to do. But when you are doing this sort of a limited series, you definitely want to give that like part 1, like this is 1 of 5, or this is 1 of 6, 2 of 6, 3 of 6, so that they, because this is a one goes on, the other goes on the other, you want to make sure that they know where that beginning and how to listen sequentially as you move through the subject, right? So that's the important part. You do want to number these, but like, don't make it as simple as part 1. Like, let them know, like, this is the subject, this is what we're talking about, or this is the name of that limited series that I'm doing, and then it's part 1 of 1 of 7 or 1 of 5, however you want to do it. But start with what the subject matter is to start with, because that's where your SEO hits are going to come in anyway. So you want to make sure that you use that limited space in your title to really get your point across as to what your topic is on that. And then you don't need to put your podcast name in that. Just want it to be what the topic is, and then this part of the series. Yes, Robin, go ahead.
Bree, can you give an example of that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give you an example of one of my favorite. This is kind of, I'll have to say, this is what inspired me, and I will show you exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
This is really, you don't need me on this, but I just want to tell you that this is super fun. I really am loving this.
Yeah, thank you.
This is great.
So Tiffany and David, they did this last year. I was really excited when they came out with this. And it came out and started coming out in December. So I had just finished their classes and I was super excited. I learned so much. And I thought this was just so incredible that they came up with this. And it inspired me. It's like, I really want to do one of these now. But they did creating authentic connections with your podcast audience. So there's your topic. And it says part 1 of 5. And so each episode will say what part it is. So you can listen in order if that's what you want to do. And they went through, each week was a portion of this. They did them almost in a row. They did have some that came in between. So it wasn't every single week they were putting the next part out. But it was within a shorter time frame. It wasn't like spread out over months. It was, I think they had maybe 1 or 2 episodes that kind of fell in between these. But I love this. I think this was so smart of Tiffany and David to do this. And it because it was such a big topic, they couldn't cover it in 1 episode, but they knew what the importance of it was. So this is my example, Robin. I'm glad that you asked. I had this ready to go because this is what inspired me, and made me want to talk about this, because I think it shows how, if you have something that you feel so strongly about and have a lot to say about, go for it. Make a limited series within your podcast. And put this out there. So yeah. How does that sound?
Sounds just great.
Yeah. And they put a lot in here. You can see all the things of what they got out of it and what the reason was for listening to this episode was.
What do y'all think of that title? Like, I'll start with you, Robin. Like, what do you think about that? Because that I get like fearful it's too long, but also I see how it is very descriptive. It's like both to me. Well,
is each title different? So is it always creating authentic connections with your...
Let me get it. I'll pull it up for you. Now I have to scroll back quite a little bit here because it was back in December. We're in June. Let me get us there quickly. All right. So it was creating authentic connections with your podcast audience, part 1 of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Feedback and collaboration, ways to authentically connect with your podcast audience. So yes and no.
Okay, one more time. Hold on. Creating authentic connections with your podcast audience. Feedback and collaboration. Ways to authentically connect with your podcast audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the third? Just out of curiosity.
Yep, here's the third. Growing your podcast. Yep.
By authentically connecting with your podcast audience. Okay, so they're saying humor and telling the truth help build authentic connections with your podcast audience. So what I'm seeing is that they are reusing what they've taught folks in this 5-part series about connecting with a podcast audience. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So the overarching topic is connecting with your podcast audience. And then they have enough. There's so much information that they broke it into subcategories, right? So think of it as your title being connecting with your podcast audience, and then all of your topics within that are the 5 different things that they want you to learn from that.
Yep.
And then on their last one, which I have to find in here because I know they put it out later, or maybe I went by it.
I think you went by it.
I probably went by it because it should be right after. Here it is. Yep, part 5. So remember your listener. Part 5 of 5 in the Authentically Connecting with Your Podcast Audience series. So they're letting you know, and so then they go into that and recap all of the things that they've learned. Not in an extensive amount, though. Like in your recap, you just want to say, here are all the different things that we talked about, and you can. And I would definitely, when you are doing your show notes on something like this, I would highly recommend that you link these episodes in the show notes. And then go back into this after you are done getting all of these posted, because now you have links to all of them, and I would put them in every single episode, right? So you're not going to have the episode 3 wouldn't necessarily, episode 3 wouldn't have episode 4 and 5 in it until those are released. But once they are all released, once they're all published, then go back in there and work, and you can edit the show notes and put the links to all of them in there so that someone can come into any one of them and be like, oh, I already listened to this one. I want to listen to bing. And then it's right there for them. Make it easy, make it super fast and easy to find so that people don't have to search for them. So that would be my suggestion on this when you're putting these together. So, yep. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So when you want to dive deeper into a topic, it's, as we saw with what Tiffany and David did, they took those subtopics because those were all of the different things they wanted to touch upon, right? So that's a great way for you to build your outline, is to say, I want to talk about this, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 things within that I could talk about, right? And that's how you want to start setting up your outline for what you want to do with this. And some of them might magically go together very, very well. And some of them you might have to finesse a little bit. Some of them you might have to bring the audience to the next part. So say you have 10 things that you want to talk about. That's a lot of things. So you're going to do a 6-part series. So you will do the introduction in the first one, right? So now we have 9 left. And we know the last one needs only 1 and the ending. So that's 2. So we have 8 episodes left. We have 8 subtopics in there that we're going to break up between episodes 2 right? And episodes, what did I say? How many episodes we're going to do? 6?
5, 6.
And 5. Yeah. 2. So between 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's 4. So we're going to put 2 of those in each one.
Say that one more time, please, Bree.
So we have 10. We have one main topic, right? One, that's what the overarching theme of this series is.
Mm-hmm.
And within that, there are 10 things we want to talk about, right? How do we break that up into a series? How would we want to do that? To take those 10 things in a series. And the first one is your introduction and one topic.
One topic. Give me an example.
Episode 1. Right? So if I want to talk about coffee, just because I'm drinking coffee today, which I haven't had in a while. If I want to talk about coffee, the first one is going to be an introduction to coffee, and then how to pick a bean, the right coffee bean, right?
Okay.
And the last episode is going to be the conclusion, what we've learned, and one topic, which will be the best topping that you could put on your cup of coffee, right? Like, do you like whipped cream? Do you like a little cinnamon sprinkle, right? So that'll be like the last topic. So now out of those 10, I have 8 topics left that I want to talk about coffee. Whether it's how do you grind your beans, how much cream do you use, what kind of cream do you use, or what, do I want a dark roast or a light roast? We could talk about roasting, right? So there's all different things that go underneath that coffee heading. So we have the first one and we have the last one. We have 8 topics left. So that would give us another 4 episodes we could probably do and put 2 of those in each one, right? So we have our first episode with one topic and intro. Episode 2 has 2 topics: how to pick the right bean, or how to grind your beans, and how to pick a roast. Episode 3 is going to be how do you store your beans? Do you put them in the freezer like I do to keep them fresh? And it could
or do you drink them so fast that you really just leave them out in the open because like 1 bag a day?
There you go. I don't do that much.
They need to be
I'm
ready
not a
available.
1 bag a day gal.
just pour it in,
So do you see how I'm saying you can put 2 in each one? So now you have a 6-part series all about coffee. It's going to have a start. It's going to have a finish. It's going to be the best cup of coffee you've ever made. By the time you're done, you'll be a coffee connoisseur. You'll know all the things about coffee that excite you. So that's what I'm talking about as you break it up. So the overarching topic is that main point, which is, with Tiffany's case, was authentically connecting with your audience, right? And that mine would be all about coffee, like how to make the perfect cup of coffee or something like that. And then I would say you start with the bean, and then you have to pick the roast that you want. Like, where do you get your beans from? And then which roast do you want? And then how do you grind them? And then how do you brew the perfect pot? Do you put it in a coffee machine, or do you do it like Tamara was very specific about how it percolates and how it's made? Or do you use a French press? And then we go on to, French press. So, but like, you know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of different things that you can do with all of these, right? So that's kind of where I want you, think about how it could be a progression thing. You want to make sure that they're following along, right? That they're getting the next step, that they're going to be out searching for coffee beans now and getting a French press or whatever it is, or finding that special coffee from Puerto Rico that Tamara talks about all the time that I have yet to try. So like, there's all these things, and you can invite your audience to come in to that adventure with you. Where do you look for coffee? What do you want to do? How do you what is a perfect cup of coffee to you? Get them into the conversation, ask them about what they're doing, and ask them how hard it is to find certain things. Like, do you have to go to a specialty store? Because that's Tamara's coffee. She has to go to a specialty store to get her coffee, right? So I know all these things because I love coffee. That's why I picked that, probably. So,
have you had enough today?
I was just gonna say, how much coffee have you had today?
Half a cup. That's it. Half a cup. I'm okay. I get excited when I do these. I think it's
talk
fun.
so fast.
I do talk fast.
How's everybody feeling on coffee? I have a quick coffee question. How far into are your, like, whatever your drink of choice is? Do you all have a drink of choice for the morning? And if so, how far are you into that bad or good habit, depending on how you feel about it?
I do at least 5 cups, maybe 6 cups of coffee a day, and it doesn't matter where it comes from or how strong it is as long as I get it. So that's how bad it is for me.
Okay, fair enough.
I get to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I get to coffee, and I wait for my home and get the store. I'm sorry. Like much better now. Only 2 or 3 a day. Has to be my coffee.
Has to be hers. She's
at the store. It's on a specific town in Puerto Rico. He sent me the mail. Now that I am able to find it, he just text my brother-in-law and say I need more coffee because they very close to the store. No, it's not super expensive, and my mom said that it's here of course because it's $7.49 and it's cheaper in Puerto Rico. It's $5. But I'm not gonna take.
Tamara, you're starting to break up more and more. Just so you know, we're hearing less and less of your words. But I appreciate you being here. We're just starting to cut out on how much of it we can tell what you're saying, and we're piecing the puzzles together slowly. I'm too far into my coffee though, for sure. Like that is always the answer. I think 2 French presses in, which is way too many cups of coffee for one human in one day, but we're getting after it today.
Oh yeah. And that's why I picked coffee. I haven't made coffee. I've been drinking tea all week. So this was my first cup of the week, to be honest with you. And I'm really liking it. Can you tell? So, and Tamara has great coffee. I have to try it. She's going to give us a class on it. So then we'll get to know all about it. But maybe she'll do a podcast series on it as well. So as we get those together, we need to make sure that our structure is really clear. Has that beginning, middle, and end, right? We're taking them on a journey on whatever this is, and we can do it in a number of different ways. We can do it with storytelling. We can do it with guests coming in. We can do it with get your audience involved and ask them questions, ask them beforehand. So you get feedback. That's something that we've been doing on Fuzzy, where we'll put questions out in different groups, right? And we'll post it out in socials and then take people's feedback from that on what their opinions are on it. Maybe you're not specifically saying, I'm doing a podcast on this and I want your feedback. You're saying something simple as, and you can fire them up a little. I always recommend firing people up a little bit. Get them hot and bothered, because they're going to answer you. But like the only kind of what's the only kind of coffee we should be drinking? Or are you ask them something that's like, you don't want to be rude, but you also want to trigger just a little bit about what you want, a response, right? You want to get that response. So put it out there. My friend tells me there's only one kind of coffee to drink, and it's this. But I told her she's wrong. What do you think? Right? And then you get an answer, right? Everyone will tell you their stories because everyone wants to tell you what they think. Think about it. If you post that, like, I started this diet and I can only have sweet potatoes and celery, every one of your friends, if you post that, is going to come in there and say, oh, that's a terrible diet, or you should try this diet. I really like this, da-da-da-da-da, and they'll tell you everything about it, right? You know that's how people work. So use that when you want to get some feedback, because you can talk about those things in your podcast, right? You can get those ahead of time and then have them in there. I did a poll, or I asked a bunch of my friends, and these are the responses that I got. You don't have to tell their names. You can just say, these are the different responses I got, right? because they're going to be wide and varied, and it's going to give you other people's take on things, especially when it's a topic like the right coffee, because we all have what we like, right? So when you ask them a question that can be so personal without being anything like personal, like something that has their own opinion on it. I love seafood. I hate seafood. I will always have a root beer. I can't stand root beer. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things that are like just what their particular likes are. And that can work pretty much with a lot of different topics. The other thing I wanted to get into does anybody have any questions on like how to ask for feedback and how to put that together? Okay. What?
Ask for feedback.
What? Yes. So that's a great way as you build it out, especially if you're going to do it like on your own. You're going to want to have varying opinions because it does make for more conversation. And then as you move through that, you can also do it in a way that is kind of like what we do in Creator Lab. And that is, we're all creators. We're talking about being better creators. That's our overarching, our development, how we grow that's the overarching topic in Creator Lab every Wednesday. And we want to bring you subcategories in that to help your development. And so our series is, and I've planned out another 26 weeks of this, people. So you gotta hang on tight. Hang on tight. I've been working on it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I like hey, you take what you want and you throw away the rest and you come back to it. It's going to be there, right? So be here for what interests you, and don't feel like you have to be here if it's like, I'm not even doing that right now. Thank you. I'll come back to it when it pops into my sphere of, oh my God, I need to know this. You'll know that we've already covered it and you can find it. That's all I want for you. This is not you have to do all of this thing. I like to put out as much information. That's kind of what I did with my son was like, when he was, I'm guessing like 4th or 5th grade, it was one of those things where like, it wasn't just us feeling like he was a great football player. It was everyone telling us that he was a great football